This is the presentation for Units 7 and 8 of Grammar and Beyond about count and non-count nouns and articles. Before we begin, remember, a count noun is something that you can count by numbers. So a count noun is something that you can point at and actually count, like fish or stars, people, children, pencils, books, words, pages, computers, and many more things. A non-count noun is something that you cannot count by numbers. You can't just look at it and count it, like information, damage, money, advice, work, experience, water, ice, snow, rain, wind, music, research, and many more. Page 83 of your textbook has a list of the most common non-count nouns. So now we're going to go back to articles. An indefinite article is a or an. We use a when the noun begins with a consonant and an when the noun begins with a vowel. The definite article is the. So here are some notes about a and and. It means one, so I want a drink means I want one drink. We use a and with singular count nouns, so I want a drink. A and can go before a noun or an adjective plus noun. So I want a drink, I want a cold drink. A goes before the noun and the adjective plus noun. Cold drink. So here's when we do not use a and. We don't use it with plural nouns, and we don't use it with non-count nouns. For example, the sentences below, the boy had toys, and the boy had information. We don't say the boy had a toys or the boy had an information. Those are incorrect. Just the boy had toys and the boy had information. So here are some notes about the. We use the with singular nouns, like the child is young, plural nouns, the children are young, and non-count nouns, the information is helpful. It can go before a noun, the children are young, and it can also go before an adjective and a noun, just like a and. So the noisy children are young, the new information is helpful. So here are the differences between using a and or the. So beginning with a and, if you and your listener are not familiar with the noun, so it is not part of your everyday lives, you use a or an. I want to visit a new park today as an example, because a new park is, you're not familiar with it, it's not part of your daily life, so you use a or an. The second time you use a and is if the specific name is not important. An example is, I bought a newspaper yesterday. It doesn't matter what kind of newspaper I bought. I'm just telling you that it's something that I bought, okay? I'm focusing on the fact that I bought something. I'm not focusing on what I bought. So I bought a newspaper yesterday. When to use the, there are 3 cases when we use the. So if there's only one, like the sun is bright today. The sun, the moon, there are only one of those. So we use the. If the noun is part of your or your listener's everyday life. So I read the newspaper every day. I read the newspaper every day. Okay, it's your daily routine. There's only one newspaper that you would read because it is part of your routine. So the newspaper. The third case is if you will soon give more information to explain which noun you are talking about. So that's a little bit more difficult. An example that I have below is, I go to the park on High Street, not the park on Main Street. So I'm using the here to tell you which one I use or which park I go to. The park on High Street, not the park on Main Street. The on High Street is giving you the more details about it. Okay, so let's stop here. You should have your note sheet with you while you're watching this presentation. So do the first 3 questions for me, please. When do we not use a/an? When do we use a/an? There are 2 situations. And when do we use the? There are 3 situations. Please write those down in your notes. And push play when you're finished. Now answer these questions from page 97 of your textbook and write the answers on your notes page. Again, you'll want to stop your presentation. Now let's talk about generalizations. A generalization is a statement that is true about all or most people in a group. Example is, young people are not serious about work. So this generalization means that the speaker thinks that all young people are not serious about their work. Of course, there are exceptions, right? Some young people are serious. But this speaker thinks that all young people are not serious about work. You can make generalizations by using articles in different ways than we talked about before, okay? So these rules are ways that you can use articles to make generalizations, to make statements that are true about a group of people. So the first rule is plural nouns get no articles. The second rule is non-count nouns get no articles. And the third is singular count nouns get a, an, or the. Here's a little bit more about generalizations. You can use words that show how many, like most, a lot, and some. An example is, most teenagers understand computers better than their grandparents. Another example is, some adults like to watch cartoons. And here's another part about generalizations is you can use a, and to define something. So I do this in class all the time. So a few weeks ago, after the presentation, we were talking about squirrels in the park, remember? And one of you asked me, what's a squirrel? And I said, a squirrel is a little furry brown animal with a big fluffy tail that likes to climb trees and eat nuts. And notice it begins with a squirrel, so that's using the article a to define something. Another example is from class a couple of days ago when we were taking the quiz and you wanted to know what adult meant. I said an adult is a big person who is not a child anymore. An adult is how you define. Okay, so let's stop right here again and answer the following questions. What is the definition of a generalization? Please write your own generalization for me. Notice I didn't give you any examples in this presentation. You might have to go back in your textbook and look at how to form generalizations. And then please write a generalization to define something, like an adult is, a squirrel is. Write your own generalization to define something else. Now let's go back to those count nouns and non-count nouns that we began the presentation with. So there's a question. How do I talk about how much of a non-count noun I have? The answer is we use measurement words or determiners. There are a lot of determiners. Actually, there aren't many determiners, but we use them in a lot of different contexts, and the only way to know these is to remember them. So the non-count nouns, you can have questions, offers or requests, statements, or negative statements. You can have the same kinds of sentences with count nouns as well. But back to non-count nouns, we have, for questions, we use much, a lot of, and any. So, is there a lot of traffic in Mount Pleasant? For offers or requests, we use some or a little, like, would you like some tea? For statements, we use too much, which means it's more than what you want, or much, a lot of, a little, some, or enough. Enough means it's the exact amount that you need. An example is, there is much information about CMU. The negative statements, for negative statements, we use not much, not a lot of, and not any. So there is not a lot of traffic in Mount Pleasant. That's not really true, though. There is kind of a lot of traffic. Okay, so let's go over to the count nouns. For questions, to form questions with determiners and count nouns, we use many, a lot of, a few, and any. An example is, do you have many friends? For offers or requests, we use some, any, and a few. Would you like any chips? For statements, we use too many, more than you want, many, a lot of, a few, some, enough. And again, enough is the amount that you need. An example is, I have a lot of friends. And to form negative statements, we use not many, not a lot of, and not any. An example is, I do not have a lot of friends. Okay? So if you notice, there are some determiners from each group that are similar, like a lot of is in both groups, and any, some, a lot of, some, not a lot of, and not any. So there are just a couple of ones that differ in every group, so you need to make sure that you remember those and remember how to use them. So the next way for talking about how much of a non-count thing that you have is by using these measurement words. So, for example, you can't ask for 5 breads, but you can ask for 5 loaves of bread or 5 pieces of bread. So this is one of the tables from your book. It's from page 88. You have containers, so a box of cereal or a box of pasta, a bottle of water or juice, a piece of cake or bread or pie or candy. Just kind of look at these words and remember what they are and remember how to use them. We'll be using them in class a lot, okay? So take some time to remember them. So I'd like a piece of cake. Can I have a slice of bread? Notice I'm not saying can I have bread or can I have cake. I'd like a cake. Okay, never mind, that does work. I need a package of sugar. You can't say I need a sugar, right? I need a new bar of soap. Again, you can't say I need a soap. You have to have some sort of measurement word. I need a bar of soap. I bought a new tube of toothpaste yesterday. You have to have tube. You can't just say a new toothpaste. Or I drink too many cups of coffee every day. Okay, so let's stop right here and answer these questions. So please complete the determiner chart in your handout. Please write one of the example sentences for non-count nouns and determiners. Please write one of the example sentences with count nouns and determiners. And number 10, please write one of the example sentences of measurement words. Sorry, there's a typo there. Example sentences of measurement words. The end. Have a great weekend.